Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, here on the Pillar Exterior Stage. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. What's up, DB?
What is going on?
Glad to have you back.
Glad to be back.
How was the network yesterday?
Network was great, man. Really good setup.
Yeah, you guys had quite the kind of event going on with there's a ton of people watching.
Yeah, so we got up into the low 40,000.
Yeah.
The videography, like the production team is just really good.
Yeah, on point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's just a good crew that they're creative.
Yeah.
And I think like they let them think outside the box.
Sure.
And they run with it.
Well, you kind of see that even I'm sure it's different crews, but you kind of even see that with the graphics they put out for the announcements and stuff legit. Like that. It's a super cool production. The whole thing is. So that was really cool to watch. And I went back and watched some of it. Obviously, you had Coach Rhule and Holgerson on there, which we've got some audio from. We'll get to a little bit later.
Yeah, I thought about rerunning that Holgerson interview at some point. Yeah. He's
an interesting guy.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And the more I get to talk to him away from the camera, the more I realize he's a lot like that on camera.
Yeah. Like same guy.
Yeah.
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 I could see that.
I think he's going to be really, really good for Nebraska. I don't know if he's a long-term burn guy.
Sure.
But
what they need right now.
He is older.
Yeah.
And he has matured.
Yeah.
But he has some characteristics that I would embrace. Because it's so buttoned up sometimes and so measured and a lot of nice guy. Because that's it's like this family feel, right?
Yeah.
But everybody has the dysfunctional sibling or the crazy uncle or
yeah.
He's just enough of that.
Yeah.
Where I think it will be a nice blend.
I think what I like about,
and by the way,
yeah,
you guys are interesting.
What do we do?
Because this guy, after National Signing Day, opened up with a number one team getting knocked off downtown with all his clips, no coaching edits, no nothing. You, the host, goes right into Nebraska as a Creighton fan.
Yeah. What's happening? You waiting for the?
Is it lightning out?
Well, you want to know what
It was about 17 degrees in my room this morning.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty cold if you had the window open.
Yeah, I had to make some decisions. I thought, has it been worse in here? Probably. Is it something that I need to deal with? Probably not.
You don't think so? You hadn't reached that point yet?
But I slept like a baby. And I'm telling you, it's the best 4 hours ever. Because I am, if you go all the way back to the state championship and that week and Coach Samanji and then Nebraska and whatever, and it has been.
You finally getting a little bit?
Well, after today, we got one more long one, and then
be able to wind down a little bit.
I might disappear for a couple of days.
Yeah, that's fair. The part of the reason,
not like Houdini.
Part of the reason I didn't necessarily want to bring up Creighton first thing bright and early is you're starting to scare me a little bit with the picks. I don't know if there's some dark magic involved here, or you text me, and I said it at the end of the show yesterday. You text me after we.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure we got it in.
Yeah, after we did bet on it, you text me. You go.
We were in the middle of it. We were talking to Dana, so I couldn't send it, and he's sitting right next to me.
It just be like, hey, Dana, I gotta send this gambling text real quick.
So then the other funny thing is, I'll let you finish real quick. Is for whatever the reason I was going back and I was just watching Huddle. There's a lot of players that I wanted to go back and watch, and for when Coach Rhule came in and he's sitting down, and it's just the three of us, and I'm not really paying attention. I'm kind of talking to Jess because we're not ready to go on yet, but it's going to be live, so we're getting it mic'd up. He looked at my computer and he goes, What are you doing? I said, oh, I'm just a glutton for punishment. And he said, you're a sicko. And I looked, I was like, pot meat kettle. Like, but you know, because I'm always on huddle on here.
100%.
So it's like no big deal to you. But
yeah, no, I've
always trying to figure stuff out.
That's one of the things lower on the
no
list
big deal
of your sicko traits is the huddle.
So I wanted to make sure that you had the picks. And apparently a lot of my friends are tailing and they're benefiting and I'm not.
Yeah, because you go Jays +4. I think it got down to 3.5 at one point. Wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
And then you go Iowa State -5.5.
Yeah.
Just cruising right along.
Yeah, chilling.
Just cruising right. Yeah, so I was a little scared to bring it up because I didn't know if you had to like channel the dark forces to get those picks or what exactly was been happening here. But the heater you're on is a little bit ridiculous.
I'm just hoping people can benefit.
I think if they've been listening for the last few weeks, like they've made a lot of money. Like a pretty good amount of money. You know what's funny too is I saw that Jays line. I go, if this wasn't Creighton, I'd be like, this is the stinky line game.
Yeah, it's unbelievable
because it smelled terrible.
Yeah, I looked. Alex, one of our the video guys, does a lot of the production. I don't know if he runs the Twitter accounts.
Okay,
but he's the guy that I also travel with.
Okay,
he and Sam, they do basketball too.
Mm-hmm.
And he reminds me of who's the super smart guy that has the dog?
I'm gonna need a little more than that.
It's a cartoon. There's a movie.
I'm not great with cartoons.
Fudge. Anyway.
What, like Sherman and Peabody?
Yes.
Is it really?
Yes. Yes.
Good.
He has a little Peabody. Wait, which one's?
I think Sherman's the dude.
Yeah. So he has a little Sherman to him.
Okay.
He's ridiculously funny.
Yeah.
But it is so, you're like, is he being serious?
Like really dry?
Or I think it's just part of his allure.
Yeah.
But he's unbelievably smart.
You like guys like that.
I do.
Sounds like Brunts.
From day one.
Yeah.
From day one, I liked him.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're going to vibe.
That sounds like our guy Michael Brunts a little bit.
Yeah.
Just like super dry, really smart.
Brunts is funny.
He is. Although
Brunts is the only guy that I like openly dap up.
I'm mad at him because he's not hanging out with us today.
Yeah, what happened?
I don't know. That's a Shane deal.
Well, I didn't get that was a late message.
Yeah. I'm guessing family something, but that's all right.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna talk about NFL instead in the 9 o'clock hour.
Yeah, I like that. We got Hasan.
Yeah. Arif Hasan. That'll be at 9 o'clock. Coming up before that, of course, we're gonna talk to. I don't even know if we need to talk to Brian Edwards every week since we got DB over here now.
Oh man, I need good balance.
Just crushing it. No, we love talking to Brian. He's our Vegas insider from Major Wager. He'll join us at 8:45. At 7:45, we're going to talk to Larry Williams. He covers Clemson for Tigers Illustrated, part of the Rivals Network, as we continue our look at the conference championship games this week. But for people that didn't hear, Terrance Knighton is officially leaving.
Boy, was that weird.
A lot of back and forth there. It seemed like just from the initial report to how long it took and to, him being, at whether it's at practice or at meetings or still doing stuff on behalf of the university pretty much until the last minute, it seemed like.
It was wild.
I mean, basically until the moment he was gone, he was still working for Nebraska, which I appreciate on some level.
The tenor in the building was interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not that everybody needs to know how the sausage is made, but I probably should just let it ride, but just weren't sure.
I mean, externally, it felt like the situation could go either way.
Yeah.
That's how it seemed with how long it was dragging out.
To do with it was just it was very touch and go.
What I did appreciate though is so we talked to a couple guys yesterday, and then you heard it a lot on kind of the various comments that were made, either on their own social media platforms or whatever. A lot of these guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball, are like, "Hey, wish Coach White, Coach Knighton the best. We committed to Nebraska though. I trust Coach Rhule," which I thought was really cool to see over. And obviously that was the messaging that got out.
Yeah.
Right? Was, hey, coaches are going to leave. This is the state of college football these days. Christian Jones and Tyson Terry are going to be great in the program because they almost were word for word when we asked him the question.
And with Tyson, you get a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
And with Christian, you get somebody that You just don't have to babysit.
Yeah.
Like Tyson is going to protect the brand. It's who he is. It's what he does. It's the guy you want with you.
Mm-hmm. He seems like a foxhole guy.
And I said this yesterday, and it was just off the cuff because I had to just think about what are the characteristics that I like about CJ.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everybody's with me on this. I may need to ask our trainer, but in 3 years, I don't think he missed a practice. I'm dead serious.
That'll go a long way.
This dude
like just that.
Never missed a practice.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
That's crazy. I mean, honestly, that's kind of crazy.
It's unheard of.
Yeah. Like not a single one?
Not one.
Yeah.
Not one.
That's bonkers.
He made it seem like he just wouldn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
missing.
Yeah.
And that's a guy who played both ways.
Yes.
You know, obviously wasn't a lack of wear and tear.
And did you hear the part? Coach Rhule said something interesting with us. I'm not sure if he reiterated it at the 1 o'clock because I didn't listen as intently. But he said, you know, the basically was in this day and age, because I said one of the reoccurring themes is competitiveness and winning.
Mm-hmm.
And he went into how, you know, I used to be a big measurables guy, and I still am. Like, I think some measurables matter, but we're adding competitiveness.
Yeah.
And to the spectrum.
He did bring that up at 1 o'clock.
So you could tell it was intentional with this recruiting class.
Yeah, actually goes, half these guys played for state championships. Right? That matters. Or I think it's over half. Over half the guys played. I think it's like 12 or 13 out of the 20.
And you look at guys like Terry and Petchak and
yeah, Terry's a guy that didn't play for state championship.
How about Simpson?
But you never worry about his competitiveness, do you? Malcolm?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
that dude looks like he could play tomorrow.
He's probably undersized.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how good of a technician he is, but one thing you can see, it's like who's my guy that I like?
You doing a boxer here? I'm seeing hands.
Receiver.
Oh, okay.
Good after the catch.
You got Team
Mosey.
Oh,
what was that guy's name?
Mosey. Like just mean-spirited once they play.
Yeah.
And that's just one of my favorite.
That's kind of what I get from Barney too, to be honest. Like,
yeah,
he gets a little nasty out there.
Not fun to practice against.
Yeah.
He's just not.
Yeah.
He practices really hard. As Caleb would say, you know, he's one of those guys. And this isn't even something, Caleb doesn't even really talk like this, but he goes, he's earned everything he's gotten by the way he attacks the day.
You like guys like that.
And it's coming from a skeptic.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's coming from
Caleb's not super effusive
because he doesn't want to be given anything.
Yeah.
It's coming from a skeptic by nature. So, like, I think those are the guys.
Well, he was like that when he went through his recruiting process last year, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because that was, I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm revealing anything here. But part of the reason his process took what it did is because he didn't play very much as a junior.
Yeah.
And he wanted to feel like
he earned it.
His tape spoke for itself rather than
1,000%.
His camps or his measurables or whatever.
1,000%.
Right? So I could see that mattering to him for other people too, because it obviously mattered for himself.
So, and it's just like you could just see that with a lot of guys.
At all. He goes, hey, there's a lot of nasty guys in this class, and I mean that in the best way possible.
Yeah, you just watching these guys on film over and over. It's like, oh, he finished him, and he finished him, and you don't. A lot of times you don't see it with big guys. A lot of times they like lean and just push. And no, that's
just pop them.
That's not really what was going on.
Yeah.
It's not. So I'm a lot of guys I think can play in this class and top 20 class. And conversely, not to go from Huskers to Jays, but to go from Huskers to Jays as an example, it's one of the reasons I can't get behind Hunter Dickinson.
Yeah. Just does not look like he cares at all.
I've said this for
years. You've said I've heard you say it for years.
Just
I think I remember the first time you said it was when he transferred to Kansas because you were just like, I don't know.
There's just something about him that
he floats.
He's
a floater.
Yeah. And there's only a handful of guys that I've ever really gravitated towards that I didn't really feel like did whatever they could do to the best of their ability, but it was still good. Peter Forsberg is one of those guys. Weird, random analogy.
Okay.
I'm a huge Forsberg guy.
Okay.
Sometimes I would watch him for
Ended
the
up
Avs.
with the Avs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd watch him for the Avs, and I'm like, this guy's just as good as he needs to be.
Yeah.
Could have been a better two-way guy.
Sure.
Was a better two-way guy later in his career. But I loved Forsberg. I watched Dickinson all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yep.
I'm like, I don't know, man. Doesn't
seem like it matters to him much.
I don't love his body. His body's gotten worse.
Yep.
I mean, those are just little telltale signs, right?
Yeah. But you can tell when a guy, like, especially in basketball, Andrew Wiggins is a really good example of this. Andrew Wiggins will go stretches in a basketball game. Rudy Gay was like this, where, obviously this guy can go out and get 25 points, but you would go a quarter and a half and not even realize he's on the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, Dickinson was a total non-factor last night.
Yeah,
and part of that's Kalkbrenner, but part of that's Dickinson.
But you're playing with a guy that literally was on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. He was struggling.
Yeah, I don't know what he did enough to get through the game last night. And I guarantee you this dude's going to be sore.
Oh, it's going to be incredibly painful today.
You watch him run?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he said after the game while he was talking to John, he goes, "Yeah, I'm numb right now, but in about an hour or two,
Did he admit what it was?
No.
Okay.
He just said that there was a shot and that he's numb right now, and then in an hour or two, it's going to be pretty painful." I don't know how Ashworth was playing either.
So when was I talking to Matty D? I was talking to somebody.
I think he was sick too.
No, this was back when they were at the tournament.
Oh, okay.
And he came out for shoot-arounds the day of the game that he missed, and I was like, how is he this close to playing?
Yeah.
And he played the next game. Did you see that ankle injury?
Yes. I thought he was going to be out for a month. He missed one game.
I couldn't believe it.
He missed, and I think he was sick last night. They haven't said that for sure, but he didn't look like he felt right.
Oh, no. You talk about a guy flourishing without others on the roster. He looks like a completely different player. Last year, he would dribble the ball, and I was like, ooh, pressure that guy.
Yeah.
There's pressure.
Now you're like, oh, if you get too close to him, he's going by you.
Yeah. Nah, I don't know about that.
No, but how many times did he go by Kansas last night?
Because, that was disrespect.
Yeah, it was.
What Kansas was doing, that was, in that backcourt, those guys were saying to themselves, you
can't get by me.
He can't get by me.
Yeah.
So they were kind of
too close.
Yeah, I don't even know what their philosophy was. I mean, are you trying to funnel? Are you hedging? Are you just going to cover up and stay attached? Like, it looked a little chaotic, and they paid the price.
100%. And they got Creighton a little bit on the hard doubles early, but once Creighton,
getting it out,
Once Creighton kind of figured it out, they really, they got out of it some, but every time they went back to it, it burned them. And honestly, it felt like, speaking of the disrespect thing, how many times did they try and either go through or shoot over Kalkbrenner? And they end up shooting. Last I saw, like midway through the second half, they were 6 for 15 on layups because they refused to understand, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't go at one of the best defensive players in conference history.
Statistically, he's been that way for 3 years.
Yeah. I mean, he's a 3-time
a legit 3
defending defensive player of the year.
Yeah. I mean,
I get it doesn't look how you always want it to look, just from a, it can be a little awkward looking out there sometimes, but it's 3 years of sample size. This isn't a fluke at this point.
Yeah.
This is who this dude is. And Kansas, it just seemed like they're like, oh, we can get by this guy. And they couldn't. Honestly, that was one of the more shocking results I've seen for Creighton.
The way that they beat him?
Both the way they beat him and just the way Creighton had been playing.
Yeah.
I did not.
You didn't expect them to come out and shoot 41%.
Didn't expect them to shoot 41%. I didn't expect them to clamp down defensively the way they did. That's the best defensive version of Creighton we've seen this year by far. Not even close. Because obviously, I think Creighton's better, or Kansas is better than San Diego State, and San Diego State got whatever they wanted against Creighton.
Yeah, San Diego State played significantly harder.
Yes, they did.
Than Kansas.
They did.
Like, all their guys, they stressed all their guys put pressure on the rim.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas doesn't play like that. And if you
one guy at a time.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
They're taking turns.
So you're playing into Creighton's strengths because Creighton already doesn't foul.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't put pressure on the rim routinely, They played that game with 7 fouls.
Yeah. They shot 8 free throws. Kansas shot 8.
7.
For both halves.
Do you know how you can turn the ball over 15 times and still win by double digits?
You only
well, number one, shoot 41% from 3.
And 53% from the field.
Don't
foul.
Don't foul.
7 fouls the whole game.
He touched it
at the line.
Can we say a quiet part out loud here for a second about Kansas?
Sure.
That offense is booty.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
It's terrible.
I mean, they'll go through crazy stretches where Hunt doesn't touch it. Mayo is kind of an ISO guy.
Mm-hmm.
Creighton was super content to let Harris shoot it.
100%.
And I got
21 shots last night.
I got to say the other quiet part out loud, and I appreciate it because Kugler has done it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? 3-mans in basketball with high quality guys is tough.
Mm-hmm.
It is tough. But I love the fact, it's not just because he's my friend. I love the fact they probably open next mic, right? Mm-hmm. So you could do that, but one of those guys could.
Yeah, not be there.
Could go.
Yeah. 3-man.
It's just hard.
Crews are hard.
It's just really hard.
I don't like it when the NBA does it either.
It's really. But when you get a guy that's on the court that's actually an analyst,
mm-hmm.
you have to. I mean.
Yeah. Why is he there if you're not going to use him? Like you have to use him.
I would use him.
You got to. And I mean, honestly. I would have had Nick on the call, not just because he's our friend.
Me too.
He's the only person in the world that has played for both of these teams.
Yeah, and not so much. I think that graphic, I've seen that picture used on that graphic.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how many times. And I'm sure Nick's probably like, okay. Okay. But it just was smoother.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean,
Kugler and Nick work together all the time.
All the time. And Cougs knows JJ too. But it's just, I was like,
Yeah, it was interesting what they tried to do.
Because then you turn around and you watch like Budden and some of these other gals that are used kind of the same way. And it's like,
yeah, I don't love the dynamics of it. I think it makes it really challenging for everybody.
I do like the fact that like JJ would say, yeah, what he said.
Maybe JJ didn't love the mechanics of it either.
Well, I mean, it's hard. Again, when you use a smart guy
that's gonna get all the points.
He is like, he knows, man.
It's like the kid in class that raises his hand first. And it's like,
and Cougs can just weave it in seamlessly.
Yeah. He's one of the few guys that can pull it off.
He's a goat.
That's DB. I'm Ravi. We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. I have said this quite a bit lately, and I've been saying it for a while. And every time I hear Dana Holgorsen talk, I think it's more true. I think we're going to see a bunch of head coaches that just want to be coordinators.
Yeah, he talked about that. We talked about that off air.
Like, exactly because of what he said. If you actually like coaching football, being a head coach is probably not for you.
Yeah, it's
not about football anymore.
He had numerous. There's lots of guys we've even kind of forgotten about that have done it.
Yeah.
And he said it's not going anywhere anytime soon.
No, especially as coordinators get paid more and more.
He said the key is a lot of these guys would do it if their egos
could handle it. Yep.
And he said,
And I think as you get older, your ego starts to be able to handle it.
Yeah, well,
hopefully.
And he was real candid. He goes, I've coached in some tough spots before, and he doesn't know that I am that like a sicko.
Yeah, that we've talked about it.
Yeah, in depth, right? Mm-hmm. The Bill Stewart, the coach in waiting, the the Houston thing,
the whole thing.
Cam Moore, I wasn't trying to be that dude, but he's like, and I just surmised it on air by saying with you guys and saying, he can coach in chaos.
Mm-hmm.
Here, I think that's an underappreciated skill set here. You have to be able to coach in chaos. I've kind of evolved over the years. I'd say, this can't be your best job, and I would give you the characteristics. But now I just think, especially after what I've seen it do to some coaches that I think would probably choose to be here, all things being equal. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to coach in chaos.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's just always a lot going on.
Yeah.
right? And that maybe is the one thing that gives people, at least me, the most confidence about Coach Rhule, is he seems utterly comfortable.
And he could say, I got a ton of respect for. I have a ton of respect for Coach Rhule, right? He just even intimating yesterday, he addressed the handshake thing and the pregame and Tony White. Did you hear what he talked about with Tony White?
Which part? Because he talked about him for a little while.
I think it was important.
Yeah.
What I tell you, I think could be a reason that you would take.
Oh, family. They want to get his family back to Florida, which makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's really important for Coach White to be in Florida.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah, that's totally fair.
And I think I think him saying that and kind of moving on, Cass, number one, was
respectful of his situation.
He's just a good,
yeah.
It could be a lot different.
Yeah.
I mean, he could satiate and feed the
mob.
Some of the narratives out there that people talk about him, but he doesn't. He can get into the snow. There's just a lot that he moves on from that I know could eat at you if you're not quite as
you can't
as mature in the situation.
You can't sit there and want to go back and get every crazy thing people say.
What Coach Ogerson said something off to the side I think is really, really important going forward. And I asked him a different way live when I was like, hey, what is it about Coach Rhule, right? The characteristics. One of the things he said unsolicited is he said his ability to work and his capacity to work and never let him see you sweat is incredible.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn from that.
That's pretty good.
I'm like,
one of the weird things I thought about.
I mean, did you hear what he just? His capacity to do work.
Yeah.
And work at a high level.
Yeah.
And never let him see you sweat. I want to learn from that.
What's that sound like he asked from his players?
Oh yeah.
Competitive endurance.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same thing.
That's exactly what he said.
That's what competitive endurance looks like when you're an adult, right? When you're no longer hitting people.
Yeah.
It's your work capacity, right? Your ability.
Sometimes dads feel a certain way. They don't want to go to work. They don't want to have a job, but you do it because
you have to.
You have to.
Yeah. There are people that are relying on you.
It's like
it's your capacity to work in less than ideal conditions.
And some people just thrive on bitching and moaning, and it's always something, and they just complain, and then what they don't end up realizing they do is they just self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Like your negativity literally speaks it into existence.
100%.
So it's
100%.
And when he said, I want to learn from that, I was like, number one, because the first thing I thought of was, oh, shoot, man, he's kind of a lifelong learner too.
Yeah, you appreciate that out of a guy that's already accomplished a lot. Yeah.
And then the other thing that he said to Jess, I think, that flew under the radar was, he goes, and then when he called me back a second time, that meant a lot to me. For like an adult male.
Yeah. To ask for help. Not once.
To listen to another adult male.
Yeah.
Affirm another adult male.
Yeah.
About vulnerability was like, I probably went from 5'8" to 5'9.5" in my chair, right? I'm like, that's it.
Yeah.
Because I talk about that all the time. And I don't think you can function at a high level for a long time without developing or evolving in that realm. Right? It can keep you from burning out as a dad. It can keep you from burning out as a husband. It can keep you from burning out as an employee. It can keep you from burning out as a coach. Like, just the inability that we have typically to be able to ask for help it's stymieing.
Yeah.
And so when he said that, I'm like, that's the last thing I thought that his demeanor, his outward personality would allow himself to say. And I was like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's very, that means he's very, he's
super self-aware
of what's going on around him.
Yeah. And also super self-aware of what's important to him.
You
I think that matters too. It's kind of funny throughout this whole thing, right? With especially with Coach Rhule, this week I've thought a lot about the situation you described to me when they were having the football coaches camp in, right? Where he goes,
where he let people register.
Yeah, he's like, how many? Yeah, the guys are like, how many guys we're gonna have? He's like, at least 900, but we've got it open until last minute. So, and they're like, okay, well, we got to do X, Y, and Z. He's like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. What? How many times did you get that sentiment from Coach Rhule yesterday, with all the chaos, and that's I think why their class didn't fall apart, which would have been really easy for that to happen. Is you sit there and you go, hey, this is a guy that deep down in his soul believes we will figure it out, and those are the kind of people you want to be around, right? Because the guy with the best plan is not always the guy that's going to be the best, right?
Yeah.
The guy that adapts the best when his plan goes poorly, that's the guy you want to be around.
Same guy that in the summer when he called said, I got to get rid of, one of my guys, like the guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, are you good? He said, listen, man, I got to think about how we got to get better tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, I'll let you know. And I just was like, I don't know how healthy that is, but I can admire it.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've tried.
If you don't end up processing it at some point,
yeah,
it's bad.
Who you telling?
Real bad. But there is an admirable part of being able to keep going.
Because you know that you're overseeing other people.
Yeah, you have a responsibility to other people.
They're banking on you.
Like being able to sit and wallow in it is a luxury that you don't have when people rely on you.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
But wallowing and processing are different, right? Like, got to be able to process it without wallowing in it.
Yeah, I just think, like, the blend. And he's not so when he says things like whoever our new next defensive coordinator is going to be a great defensive coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying it out like he knows you can put that to the test.
Yeah.
Right? If he says something about Coach White and his family, he's saying it out loud. You can put that to the test.
Yeah.
If he's saying something about Coach Holgorsen, because how many people really believe that Coach Holgorsen didn't know if he was staying or not when he got there? Did you hear him tell the story how he was going to Fort Worth and he changed his flight?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who does that?
Yeah. He's telling you the truth. Like, he's telling you the truth.
He goes, I didn't know if Dana was going to stay or could he learn it. But then when he let me know, we're like, okay, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
I'm like, bizarre.
Yeah. But that's how you operate when you're a just figure it out guy. Right. We'll talk about this more coming up later in the show. But next, we've got a little bit of ACC Championship preview with Larry Williams from Tiger Illustrated. Wrapping up hour number one here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by Larry Williams. He covers Clemson for Tiger Illustrated. Larry, how are you this morning?
Doing great. Hope y'all are as well.
Larry, I know this is just how you drew it up, right? The season, this is what you had going the whole time and playing for a championship. Like how, given the Cliff Notes version of how this started to how we got here, it's been incredible.
Well, if you just take the 3 hours last Saturday that elapsed between them walking off the field after a truly excruciating loss to South Carolina, the most excruciating way to lose possible, and to do that to your rival, and you take those emotions, and then 3 hours later, the team and the fan base is told, oh, by the way, you're going to the ACC championship. Like, their brains are not wired for that. You know, it's just like, wait, what? You know, it was such a wild swing of emotions. And the most vivid example of that, guys, is Dabo Swinney's post-game press conference after the South Carolina game. He was already looking to next season, talking about 2025, largely because before he walked into the press conference, Syracuse was down 21-0 to Miami.
Yep.
And so just like everybody else, okay, well, that's that. Well, during his press conference, I'm sitting there watching the Syracuse game, watching them score 2 touchdowns in quick succession. And I almost wanted to, like, raise my hand and say, hey, man, y'all still got a shot. Because he was already turning the page, and I think turning the page perhaps to staff changes and things like that have to happen, when you're not preparing for a game. You're not preparing to play in a championship game. So I think that's a product of, just one of the many byproducts of this chaotic sort of existence in the 12-team playoff. I think everybody's sort of learning on the go. I think if you're a neutral observer, it's exciting and it's fun. But when you're at the mercy of it, and when you're one of the participants, it's a freaking roller coaster.
Larry, I do have to ask, because you brought up potential staff changes, things like that. Like, how much does that change based on being able to play in this game and whether or not Clemson wins this game? I mean, whatever issues that kind of led to that thought process likely still exist. How do you think that ends up playing out, given how the circumstances changed over the course of basically his press conference?
Yeah, I can't speak authoritatively on that. Like, what if this, then that. Dabo Swinney keeps this stuff very close to the vest. I think, like most coaches, but I think probably more than most coaches, he keeps it almost entirely to himself. But if you've been around him a long time, as I have, I think you can sort of read the tea leaves a little bit. I think that going into the South Carolina game, for the defensive side of the ball, Wes Goodwin, the third-year defensive coordinator who was promoted after Brent Venables left for Oklahoma, it was a way outside the box hire 3 years ago. Goodwin had never even been a position coach. He was a support staffer who had a key role, no doubt, but a behind-the-scenes guy who had never led his own room, never led an entire defense. I thought going into the South Carolina game that it was a big game for him, right? And so coming out of that game, I think it just depends on how Dabo viewed it. Like, no, you can't tackle Lenora Sellers. Like, that had to be really frustrating, watching him turn into Superman, at your expense. But you still gave up 17 points to a pretty darn good offense. I suspect that this Saturday against SMU, I mean, they have a high-level offense. They have a high-level quarterback, in Kevin Jennings. So I don't put it past, the idea that this next 60 minutes and perhaps beyond, if they were to fluster Jennings, if they have a good defensive performance, if they get in the playoff, I think anything can happen. And certainly, a script can be changed just depending on how they perform and how far they go. Now, if Jennings comes out Saturday night and just slices up that offense and they give up, 30-plus points and they don't have many answers for him, I don't think it'll be a comfortable ride home for some of the guys on that defensive staff. I just think you just go according to a lot of the sort of body language and comments and just reading the room, so to speak, of how Dabo has sort of assessed things on the defensive side of the ball.
Larry, walk me through getting just past the stats. I've seen Georgia, I've seen Louisville, I've seen Pittsburgh, I've seen South Carolina, and I saw portions of Virginia Tech. If I said 3,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, what am I missing with Cade in terms of it equating to big-time performances? Because on the surface, those stats everyone in the country would take, but it kind of gives me some Drew Aller, Penn State vibes with the fan base.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
I think that I think there's some context to it. I'm not saying that's correct necessarily. I don't think that's unfair, and it's largely because, when they reeled off 6 straight victories,
yeah,
it felt really good in the moment, and you're like, oh man, this offense has figured it out, and this is a top 10 team, and this offense is never going to look back. I think now we have a lot more evidence that those 6 victims that they faced on that winning streak and those 6 defenses were not good.
Oh, okay. I get it.
And that's just reality. But I will say this: Cade Klubnik has come a long way last year. A long way. And honestly, he had one really bad play against South Carolina, and it was the deciding play. At the very end, they're 18 yards from winning the game, and you want to be aggressive and try to win it, but you also don't want to be stupid and waste your chance to send the game into overtime. Well, he had a boneheaded mistake in scrambling and trying to check it down. The ball is behind the intended receiver, the running back. Ball gets tipped up in the air and intercepted. Other than that, and a couple of missed throws that I think would have been game changers, I think Cade Klubnik had a really good game against South Carolina, and that's probably what a lot of Clemson fans are losing, in the midst of their total misery of losing to a rival, is offensively, they showed some really good signs overall, and I think it started with Cade Klubnik and his passing ability. So, he's a second-year starter, and so I don't see any reason why he can't be even better next year and be a really high-level dual-threat quarterback. One of the better ones in the country, honestly.
Is he embraced by the fans as much as the statistics would show? Because it's in the upper echelon, top 10, 12 in the country, but he doesn't come up a ton in elite-level quarterback play discussions.
Yeah, I think the fans – well, I think it depends on the most recent evidence. And for their most recent evidence, that it was a reminder of, like, in 2023, he had brain farts left and right. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, losing his situational awareness.
Yeah.
And so for most of this season, it hasn't been that way. And up until in that game, up until that moment, it wasn't really that way. But I think it was just like, that's the old Cade, But I will say this: they don't beat Pittsburgh without Cade Klubnik. They don't beat Virginia Tech without Cade Klubnik. He made some amazing plays with his legs and his arm in both games to sort of get them out of there with victories. So I think most fans, if they're being even-handed, if they look at the overall body of work, probably pretty happy with his 2024 season so far.
Larry, real quick before we get you out of here, with National Signing Day being yesterday, obviously Dabo's philosophy on building a team it kind of shifts back into focus for some people. I guess what's the general feeling around Clemson about Dabo and the way he's kind of decided to buck the trends of the sport, and at the same time it's when Clemson seems to be a little bit further away from competing for a championship?
The general feeling is that he's got to adapt. I think Clemson fans love him. I mean, they're not running him out of town. I'm not saying that. They appreciate the hell out of what he has done. Just an amazing Hall of Fame career, taking them to places that nobody ever really envisioned when he took over. But, this season was kind of viewed as like kind of a referendum year on his stance. I think had Clemson beaten Georgia and, gone to the playoff and made a run, of course they could still do that. They're still – even Dabo is like, hey, we can be the first 3-loss national champion. That's what he's saying this week.
That's awesome.
And, I think that's I sort of interpret that as he's trying to motivate his team, trying to turn his team's mentality around after the devastation of the South Carolina loss. I think he's coming around. I would be really surprised if they don't go out and get hotly pursue at least one highly regarded portal guy. I'm thinking defensive end right now. I think they have the money allocated to do it. And so, I don't think he's been as opposed to it as people think. Like a year ago, they tried to get a couple of offensive linemen, and they just struck out. Like the offensive linemen went elsewhere. Now, there's a sort of a corollary to that. Were they willing to spend the right kind of money on those offensive linemen to the extent that maybe they are willing to put forth the money on transfer guys now? I think that's an open question. But I do think he's adapting sort of beneath the surface in a way that sort of the generalists like y'all maybe y'all don't see. But we'll see.
Larry, we appreciate the time there. We're up against it. That was Larry Williams from Tiger Illustrated. We will have more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Interesting perspective there from Coach Holgorsen.
It is. Hold that thought. Shane, play clip 4.
I just think it's going to change so much every year. I mean, personnel is going to change. I mean, guys are going to stay, guys are going to leave, they're going to graduate, they're going to get better, they're going to improve. It's what I said when I focused on our team for a week. I focused on USC for a week. I focused on Wisconsin for a week. I focused on Iowa for a week. And now I'm kind of taking a deep breath, and we're doing a lot of recruiting and stuff. And then next week, we'll know who the next opponent is. And I focus on that, and so, we'll have 2 to 3 weeks to be able to, do developmental practices, to be able to get our guys together and continue to practice them and see what the bowl game looks like. We need to go win this game. The fact that Nebraska hasn't been to a bowl game in 8 years or whatever it is just mind-blowing to me. It's just, I can't fathom it, and so we need to take advantage of this and go have a good performance in the bowl game, and then we'll shift to next year. But the team is going to change, I mean, how it's going to change, I don't know. But we're going to probably bring in 20, 30 transfers, on visits. We're not going to take that many, but we're going to bring that many in to be able to fill the spots that we need to be able to change our team. And I look forward to that process.
I kind of think they might take that many.
They won't.
He just kind of, the way he said it, the way it came off, and maybe that's just kind of his thought process was, it seemed like he said it, and then it's like, I better reel that back a little bit.
He knows that. So, I think he feels like they have to get it right.
Yeah.
Because what they're worried about is what everybody should worry about. At what cost?
Yeah.
And I don't mean fiscally.
Financial, yeah.
I mean to the culture of your team.
Yeah.
So they will be very selective. And I think he has to weed out. I don't think they will. You might be right.
Although Coach Rhule said 15.
I said 10.
And then Coach Rhule said 15.
So, and we'll see, right? Because they don't want to settle.
No. And I genuinely believe if they think they can get it right, they'll take guys that can help them.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think – and you heard Coach Rhule talk yesterday about being more aggressive in the portal this year and kind of reverting somewhat back to an NFL model in terms of roster management and stuff like that, which I was glad to hear him say because I had said I thought he overcorrected a little bit too much.
Oh, from the non-transactional?
Yeah.
Transactional? And
so if he moves just a little bit more that direction, because I agree that you should not be transactional if you can help it, but I also think you can overdo it in the sense of, hey, if guys aren't holding up their end of the bargain, you're not really being transactional anymore. You've given them every opportunity to succeed, and they're not taking it.
Yeah.
There's a difference there, right? And I think that's pretty important, but I think we should be prepared for a decently large transfer class, which means even more guys than you think are going to be leaving.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I tried to do the math yesterday, and I did it off of 10 incoming transfers, not 15 or 20. It's going to be 50 guys. And a lot of them are going to be walk-ons, but that's a third of the roster.
Yeah.
Right? So there's going to be guys whose names you know and recognize and maybe are not thrilled about leaving. That's going to be baked in there. It has to be.
Yeah. I mean, when bloodletting means bloodletting, it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, your blood will be spilt.
Yeah.
Right? There will be a...
is that your boy, Daniel DDL? Shane?
Daniel Day.
Yeah.
Lewis.
No, that's There Will Be Blood.
Oh.
It's where he drinks people's milkshakes. Have you seen that movie?
No.
Okay, that's not.
Everybody just tells me he's an incredible actor.
I think he's a little much sometimes, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
In that movie
Is
specifically.
he in something else I would have seen?
He was in the
Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, Last of the Mohicans was like
Not a big Mohicans guy.
My Left Foot.
The movie.
But he's in it. He's in it.
Even at Christmas.
Well, he was the last one.
Did you see me stop myself in real time?
Yes.
You should be so proud of me.
No. Because the awkward pause made me a little insecure. I should know better. I meant the movie.
Yep. He did My Left Foot, where he's like a painter that only uses his feet. I think. I think he won an Academy
Definitely
Award.
Not sitting.
That's not up your alley. Gangs New York. He's Bill the Butcher in Gangs New York.
Oh, the dude that was trying to groom DiCaprio?
Yeah. But like his heir apparent.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's Bill the Butcher in Gangs New York.
Yeah, I don't like him.
He's I
don't think him.
I
don't think.
In There Will Be Blood specifically, he's a little much. Like, it's a little over the top for me.
Okay.
I do think he's probably a very talented actor. Sometimes I don't agree with his choices.
I have seen that movie, but that movie was so. I watched that on a plane.
Really?
That, yeah. And I didn't.
That's a choice.
Yeah, I didn't. Bad one. Like milk.
That's a bad choice.
Yeah.
But no, I do think.
Speaking of Ron Burgundy, no, never mind.
Did you read something off a teleprompter you shouldn't have?
No, I was going back to the conversation we had. Big Red wrap up, but anyway, that night.
Okay.
Move on. Move on.
But yeah, I do think we're going to be talking about a little bit bigger transfer class, both incoming and outgoing. I mean, outgoing, I think we've tried to establish for people, right? Like This is going to be, there's going to be a lot. But I do think there's going.
I think him getting Nash and Ty to play in the bowl game will be big.
Yeah. Why is that? I mean, for winning, yes.
Have you looked at the D line?
Yeah, it's a little thin. My buddy texted me last night. He goes, "Hey, it's gonna be the first time anybody ever plays a 2-4-5 base defense."
Yeah, I was. So there's a couple guys that I'm like, that's interesting because they like you.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have to remember, just because you're in the portal
doesn't mean
mean you're leaving.
Yeah.
But Kai Wallen surprised me a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know Coach Rhule thinks pretty highly of him.
The two that surprised me were Kai Wallen and James Williams a little bit.
Yeah, and listen, there's no bigger fan of James Williams than me.
Mm-hmm.
At least I don't think. There might be.
But you're a big fan.
Plus, I know him. Like,
yeah.
That's the dude that I hung out with in the lobby in Iowa City.
Yeah.
Right? Like
When you became a fan over the visit, when he was talking to the recruits and stuff. And
right.
Yeah.
Right. And nothing was open to eat when we got there for Thanksgiving, and I hadn't eaten because it just didn't fit with Thanksgiving and the plane schedule. And so I ate at the hotel lobby in the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Stu came down, and I understand he has a very, 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 very unique situation.
Mm-hmm.
Some other people around the country may have players like that on their roster. Nebraska has had next to none. And so some of the things that I think he's dealing with from an emotional maturity standpoint, I understand why he's doing what he's doing, but I would love for him to just kind of take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
I think I worry a little bit.
Yeah. About getting in a spot that
just a little knee-jerky
isn't as good for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that. I mean, because
the structure is part of the growth.
Yeah. Well, and that's a guy with Knighton leaving makes a lot more sense. When he could put his name into the portal, it wasn't official that Knighton was going yet. And we saw how he feels about Coach Knighton kind of throughout the season.
Now he's got to remember, FSU can only get to 105 too.
Right. Everybody.
So, because this isn't going to be like some great FSU destination. That's not what's going to happen.
No, there's only so many spots, right? So I think a lot of these guys,
and I think Florida State's in a good spot, with NLI too. So,
I think they're okay. They have money, but not everybody's on the same page down there.
Yeah, well,
so
we'll see.
The challenge.
Just because it has been doesn't mean it always will.
Sure,
be.
Yeah, they might have gotten things cleaned up, but that's the one thing that has always been a little bit, I guess, iffy about Florida State is the money's there. It's just not always everybody pulling in the same direction. So they have the ability to go get guys for sure. I mean, we've seen that with like Jared Verse was a huge portal addition. Everybody wanted him. Obviously ended up being a really good player. They've gone out and got guys. Keon Coleman's a great example of a guy they went out and got as well. Everybody wanted Keon Coleman, right? That was a guy that was really good out of the portal, ends up being a really nice draft pick as well. But I'm curious because we've talked, obviously D-line is going to be a point of need for Nebraska in the transfer portal, just from a sheer number standpoint, right? Is there a place that you're like, hey, I really want them to go get guys at this spot?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't taken near as deep a dive as some because I'm not super emotional like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just always figure it'll sort itself out, especially like if anybody's ever had anybody leave them in their lives before, the portal doesn't move your needle. If you like drama or sensationalism or
I like
knee-jerky,
transactions.
I don't like it. The portal isn't a thing for me because the thing that I've realized over the last handful of years with the portal is it's a humbler.
Sure, yeah.
And so I know that there's some guys that are going to be like, man, I thought, and then it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
And so they'll figure that out. I mean, guys, quasi adults.
Yeah.
Adults will come in and tell you, hey, you can do this and get this here. But as we've seen all over the country, guys have to make good on what they say they're going to do too, because that has apparently become a thing where guys don't.
Yeah.
So, I think you got to get a couple of veteran O-line.
Mm-hmm.
You need a receiver,
big body guy,
somebody with a couple guys with experience.
Yeah.
Because you're going to play 4 at a time.
Yeah. Well, pretty much always, or a lot of the time. Yeah.
And no less than 3.
Yeah. Because Dana did go to a couple back sets of a little bit.
And I think you're going to have to go D-line.
Yeah.
You may get a veteran presence at corner.
Okay. I'd like to see a D lineman or two, just again for depth. I like a lot of the young guys, assuming the guys that are.
I like Bear, but as the football coach in me, doesn't love him as much as like the
person
fan base.
Yeah. I was surprised that people thought that Bayer was as big of a loss football-wise.
I think they see stats.
I think they also,
but you have to like watch games too. He's a good player. I'm just saying, like that didn't like on the needle thing.
Didn't move it a ton.
No,
I think people also like the story.
Yeah,
I think that's a big part of it.
100%.
You know, I think that's a big part of it.
And he's got a good relationship with Coach Rhule, so I mean, we'll see.
Maybe that door's still open. Swings back the other way.
Guy.
Yeah.
Hey, go do you.
For sure. I do look at I do wonder about offensive line because there's a part of me that wants to see some of the guys that they've had in the system for a couple years because and I keep coming back to Gunnar Gatula, right? Like that's a guy that most people weren't super high on in terms of that specific class of a guy that would play early. And what they've done with him, it kind of makes me excited to see some of the other guys that they've had in the system for a couple years to see what that looks like, whether it's like a Grant Bricks or, you know, some of those guys. I am a little excited to see. So I'm a little bit torn on the offensive line because obviously experience, if you can get good guys there, is going to be hugely helpful. But there is a part of me that thinks like Donnie's doing a really good job, and I kind of want to see that come to fruition a little bit more. So I'm a little bit torn on the offensive line, to be honest with you. Like, I don't want him to go get a guy just to get a guy.
They won't.
I know. I'm just, that's the concern is you feel like maybe you have to go get something that you don't.
Yeah, I think
because it's easy to look at a young room and be a little nervous, right? Like it's easy to look at a young room and be like, hey, I think these guys are good.
Yeah, I just think you need maybe a veteran presence or two, right? Because you still have what do you have, 18 online?
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
So you obviously want to. I think safely you want to be in the 20s. I think you like your young running backs room. I'd go there last on offense.
Mm-hmm. You like where the tight ends are at?
It's an interesting room.
Yeah.
It depends on how you feel. It depends. Like if you, what are you gonna do with like Keelan? Where do you eventually think Carter is?
Mm-hmm.
You've got a good one in who dealt you fits and scout with Ingerson.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on what your vision is for those guys.
Yeah.
Because they have there's a good young 2 or 3.
Yeah,
and there's probably only one natural tight end of that bunch,
Ingerson,
and that's Ingerson.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to get in there.
So if I'm doing my math right, there is 23 guys that aren't seniors in the offensive line room. So you've got
that aren't seniors.
Yeah. So you've got a lot of guys in that room. That's not including the incoming class. So I imagine there's going to be a little bit of attrition there.
Yeah. Read those to me again.
So you've got, let's see here, Bricks. Corcoran can come back. I don't know what's going to happen there. He's a senior, but he could technically medical redshirt this year.
Yeah.
So I'm not totally sure what to do there.
I'm going to do this on the fly.
Okay. So Bricks.
Okay.
Justin Evans.
Okay.
Gunnar Gatula.
Okay.
Jacob Hood can come back.
Okay.
Tyler Knack.
Okay.
Brock Knutson.
Yep.
Latovsky.
Yep.
Major Jack. I don't know how to say his last name.
Jack?
Yeah, Matcher Jack. Yeah. Let's see. Mazuka's gone. Peters. I don't know if Prohaska's coming back.
Okay.
We've got Gibson Pyle.
Okay.
Ruggiero.
Okay.
Scott's gone. Segrin.
Okay.
Sledge.
Yep.
Talmua.
Yep.
That's it. I skipped some walk-ons.
So that's not 23. That's
with the guys I skipped. It should be like 19.
18.
Okay.
And that you're including Teddy too, so I'd be closer to 17, depending on how Teddy feels. Although he travels with them.
Yeah.
I try not to bother him. So 17, let's say 17 or 18.
Okay.
So you got to probably try to get a couple vets.
Yeah, because you're not expecting anybody from the incoming class to play.
Yeah. You've got Sledge or Evans that can play center. You've got to find a tackle.
Yeah, because you feel okay
you need a left tackle.
You feel okay about Latovsky at guard.
Yeah, you need a left tackle.
Yeah, that's fair. Unless I don't know how much they like. I think they wanted to try Bricks out at tackle. I don't know if that's a left tackle.
He's awful young and no playing experience.
Yeah, so it depends on how you feel about him probably. But
you need a veteran. You need a veteran tackle.
Go get a left tackle.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would not complain about that. Let's get to Jay here, giving us a call on the Hurrdat hotline. Jay, you there?
Yes, I am. That was fast, guys.
What's up, buddy?
I was definitely expecting to listen to that dreaded music.
I was trying to help you out.
Well, I appreciate it. Hey, man, Satterfield is still here.
Yeah.
All right? And I'm not saying that that's a completely negative thing, but I do, if you read the tea leaves, for lack of better phrases to say, read whatever's happening in front of you, then you would see that there's some loyalty here. There's a lot going on in the program. And when I heard what Rhule said at the podium yesterday, it did give me a little bit of confidence boost that I needed. Like, he basically screamed to all of Husker Nation yesterday, there is a plan and it is in motion. The only thing that threw me off or made me feel as if the plan may not be as amazing as he thinks it is was Terrance Knighton. And the reason why I say that is because when we hear about Terrance Knighton, everything we've ever heard about him, one is he's a great football coach, but secondly, and probably more than his football skill, is just the fact that he's engaging with young people, man, and how and his impact of how they respond to him. So I feel like in any situation, our leading men and there's a large group of them, having someone like that in the program is vital. So I don't know if you can just, Google someone or, hire somebody off the street that can come in and bring you that. So that kind of made me a little weird, but the fact that Satterfield is staying in the tight ends room, and that they're bringing in a new receivers coach, and that there's some things moving. And honestly, I turned my head aside a little bit with the disposition that Rhule gave in regards to just when he said just the little things. And maybe I'm tripping, so Damon, you help me out. Ravi, you help me out in respect to when he was we're always going to play good defense. For me, that sprinkled a little air. I don't even want to say it, right? But maybe it's just the confidence that we need. So maybe, him being as confident as he is and, what he can build defensively is what it's supposed to be. And also when he said that we're going to stick to what we're doing, that doesn't necessarily mean a 3-3-5, but something close to what these guys are used to playing. That made me feel good as well. So all in all, gentlemen, I do feel like what he put in the ground last year in respect to the recruiting class, all those Omaha kids and this new recruiting class that we have here, and him telling us, screaming it, we're going to hit the transfer portal. I believe that, we're headed in the right direction. Hopefully we get a good bowl game and a good win, and the offseason is amazing. Guys, have an amazing holiday season.
I appreciate that, Jay. Go ahead. You cut him off? He was gonna say something in closing, Shane.
Appreciate the call there, Jay.
I liked his closing mark.
Why didn't
have
you
a happy holiday season?
Why didn't you just tell me Frank had the number in the chat?
Frank?
Yeah. You weren't in the chat either?
No, I wasn't. I was counting off the roster live. I try and do it, but it's hard for me to I can't read and talk at the same time. I'm not very talented, so I got to wait till breaks usually to catch up on the chat.
How that goes, haven't you?
Yeah, it goes terribly.
Hey.
Shane like that one?
Who's he laughing at? That's why I don't use a teleprompter.
Or
use notes.
Happens to the best of us.
Bullet points. Use bullet points.
Bullet points are good. Just let me look at it. Let me glance, know what's going on.
I used to do these endorsements all the time, and they're like, hey, here's the script. And I would look at it, and I would read it.
Yeah.
And I would give it back to the exec, and they'd be like, you good? And I'm like, yeah. Next time, just give me bullets. I got the gist of it. We have a guy that always gauges the wind. He has a wind thing.
Yeah.
And he writes them down on the dry erase board, and it's handy. And I do a lot of the special teams with Journey, just in a return game.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll say, hey, it's 4.2 out of this direction, 5.7. And I wasn't paying attention. And then he showed it to me. And I looked at it for about, 10, 15, 20 seconds, whatever it was. And I gave it back to him. Coach Forsyth looked at me and he goes, what was that? And I go, I just had to memorize it because it's too much to read. And he's like, dude, you're a sicko. That's just our process.
It's too much to read. I just have to memorize it.
Man, Frank had my back, though. He said 17 right off the bat.
Well,
that was a few minutes ago.
Sorry, Frank. I didn't.
Could have saved me the work.
Save me the work. I'm the one trying to read on air.
Yeah, that was bad.
I'm not any
I
good
did like
at that.
The fact you know Brugeroli.
Hey, I know the names. I'll give me that much.
Nice.
As long as you're not from South Dakota, apparently. We'll be back. More Hurrdat Sports Radio. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. If you're headed to work, make sure you've got your seatbelt fastened and make sure it clicks. It prevents injuries and saves lives, but only if worn properly. This message from the NDOT. I don't know that car is going to be Dana Holgerson's mode of transportation there.
But he just cracked old Jessica up, didn't he? Yeah, make fun of DB.
you know, airlines exist, DB.
He said, you ever heard of planes? That was good.
I do kind of appreciate that, though. I get the traveling is a thing, but it's also this isn't 1950. You're not taking a train across the country. Yeah. It's going to be all right.
Okay.
Like Nebraska's not flying through more than 3 hours anywhere.
Listen, my guy.
They can't.
You still have to get back for the next day or that night and set the schedule.
Yeah.
Right? Because in that same vein, then you should be eye rolling at Big Ten Media Days when you heard Coach Rhule talking about playing across 4 time zones.
I mean, a little.
So where were you then?
I mean, a little, yeah.
But you haven't heard of planes?
Whatever, nut butter. Be quiet.
You big nutter butter guy?
That's not what I was talking about. No, I don't like processed peanut butter like that.
Oh, okay. You don't like cookies much either.
No.
Not a big carbs guy.
No. You should have seen our to-goes for the plane on the
For
way
Iowa?
back.
Yeah.
Because, hey, I got caught. Ooh, because usually you have food at the airport and then food as you board the plane. But they all ate together at the stadium.
Oh, okay.
We had to be there at 5.
Yeah.
On Thanksgiving. So, which, again, if you think anybody close to me would tell me that that's what they're doing, you're wrong. They don't. So the whole day, right? Because my mom doesn't eat till 4:30.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, fudge, I'll snack on something on the plane because there's not going to be anything open in Iowa City. Crickets.
Nothing on the plane?
Nothing.
Oof.
Except the snacks, right?
Yeah.
The jerky and the whatever. I'm like, OMG.
Having some
so immediately, B-Mac, like, gets my Wi-Fi going, and I'm like, restaurants near Coralville. Restaurants near nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. I'm like, oh, boy, guess I'm eating at the hotel.
There's a Steak and Shake in Coralville.
Not open on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, probably not.
So, but on the way back, they had the big boxes and small boxes of this particular chain restaurant. And in the big boxes were 2 sandwiches, nuggets, chips, and a cookie. They look like a shoebox.
Okay.
Already prepackaged. And the small boxes on the other side were, I think, just like, I don't know. I would never have gone down to the smaller boxes, but I think it was just like the nuggets and the sandwich and whatever.
Cookie or whatever. Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, ooh, this is nice. Then when we got to the airport, they had all different kinds of subs.
Yeah.
Like from this other particular establishment. And I looked at Kristen and I was like, this is going to sound weird, but can I take 3? She's like, take all you want. I said, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, go ahead. Because they don't really care and they want to use them, obviously.
Yeah.
And so I saw her yesterday and she's like, what's up with the... You don't look like you eat 3 sandwiches. I was like, oh, I need the meat off of there. And she just eye rolls. And one of them I didn't even eat. So I got stuck.
Me a little bit. Yeah.
I couldn't believe I calculated wrong. I was going to eat my hand on the plane. It was just, Ben was like, you going to be okay?
You don't like to eat while you're traveling, though.
No, I don't.
Or before you're traveling.
I don't.
So, I mean, would you have actually eaten anyway if you had the chance?
Yeah, I take it back to I do the same thing every time. I take the food back to my room.
Okay. But you still would have been hungry on the plane.
Yeah.
You just would have been able to resolve the situation sooner.
I didn't know about restaurant food.
Yeah.
It's like the Water Grill or something like that. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, that's, it's a hotel restaurant. Kind of is what it is.
That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
I do appreciate that about hotel restaurants, that they're going to be open.
A lot of them are pretty good, too. Like, I'm shocked at the quality.
That's where the wife started, was in the hotel restaurant before she moved down to banquets.
Yeah.
And so she always ended up working Thanksgiving because they always have people in there. You got to keep that thing rolling,
That thing what?
Got that thing rolling. We actually went in to see her on Thanksgiving one year, and it was like, so they had a bunch of leftover, like they made rib or like prime rib and stuff for people. And so they just had a bunch of leftovers. So we got hooked up pretty good.
And this is like the hottest of the hot takes for me.
Not a big prime rib guy?
I think it's overrated, even though the ribeye is the greatest steak ever.
Yeah.
Because you have to eat it so fast.
The ribeye? Or the prime rib?
Yes.
Yeah. Listen, I'm probably not going to choose prime rib.
And why doesn't the fat gelatinize on a ribeye the same as it does the prime rib? I mean, I think it's opaque after like 5 seconds.
I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm bombing on it, but
yeah, it's not going to be my first choice.
It's not my first choice, even though I love a ribeye.
I do. Ribeye is my favorite cut.
It's not even close
by far. But
I never order prime rib.
I don't either, but like it's around sometimes and I'll eat it. Like it's good.
But you know what I think it is?
What's that?
Just processing through it right now, real time. It's the cooking method.
Oh, with the fat.
I don't love almost any meat out of the oven.
Yeah.
Not an oven guy. Not a
you want
protein.
The sear?
Not a pro. Yeah, I think that's
you want the grill and the sear. That makes sense.
Not a protein out of the oven kind of guy. Like I'll take grilled chicken over baked chicken. I'll take smoked turkey over oven baked.
Sure.
Oh, and I certainly don't like roast.
Yeah, I'm not a roast guy.
Mom, she's like, oh, but this is this crown roast, and I was like, yeah, but it's still out of the oven. No.
Or like the crock pot. You guys ever do the roast in the crock pot? Not like you specifically, but like when you were a kid.
I'm black.
Oh.
No.
Black people use crock pots? Is that a thing? I'm learning that real time.
I'm black and I'm hoping.
Is that an exclusively white people thing? Crock pots? I grew up in a mixed family, so I don't always know, DB. I know like Instapots are definitely a white people thing.
Oh, wow.
But like I don't know, like I could see I hope this isn't offensive. I could see I could see D like putting a little crock pot meal together.
No.
I'm offended by it. I don't use Instapots.
Shane, I don't think you would splurge on an Instapot.
I don't even know
for tender
I don't
meat,
even know what the hell that
I
is.
wouldn't thumb my nose up at an Instapot.
Okay, so you're out on a
I would use it for more like the sous vide or pressure cooking than
Okay.
I would crock potting.
Okay. So you're okay on a pressure cooker, you're out on a crock pot.
Gotta be 75% of the things that people put in a crock pot I wouldn't eat.
Well, that's not the crock pot's fault.
The potatoes, the veggies.
That's not the crock pot's fault.
You guys don't season anything. You just put.
What do you mean, you guys?
You just put the broth in there.
Are you
we're good.
Are you unfamiliar with curry? We season lots of stuff. I don't know who you guys are.
What, Steph Curry?
People that don't like to cook. My bad. I'm gonna get in trouble here. This is wild. Yeah, not a crock pot guy. I'm well.
Is that like is that a cultural thing though? Is that like?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I'm unfamiliar. I'm learning.
I mean, unless you want to like warm cheese.
I'm a lifelong learner. Like a fondue, like a nacho cheese.
I get a crock pot is like good for dip.
Okay, I can see that.
It's about
I'll make like a nacho dip in a crock pot.
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, you're not making like a whole meal.
No.
Not throwing a chicken in there.
No.
Or a pot roast.
No.
All right.
I see what you did there.
R.I.P. pot roast. Our guy.
Still my dude.
I do. He was. See, this is one of my favorite guys. I'm sad that he's gone.
That's my guy.
I still love the watch dance after Colorado.
Was it weird how Coach Rhule said he'll be with us, but he has opportunities? Did you catch that?
Yeah, he said the same thing about McGuire.
That's it. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Like it's a. I think. I mean, he seemed like he was really open about just kind of like, yeah, there's some stuff going on.
Yeah.
Nobody's made a decision yet.
But he was not this was not.
Yeah.
I mean, he was explaining his wardrobe to me. He's so stinking funny.
Yeah.
He's like, well, if I wasn't in a meeting, I wouldn't wear this. I'd be back to this. And this it just is.
Because he had like a collared shirt on or whatever.
Yes, just his rationale
Yeah.
is so. I mean, it's mean, but just saying it out loud.
And like higher functioning.
Yes.
A little bit.
Significantly more higher functioning. It's funny. Joel just spoke this into my algorithms the last couple weeks. He said Mississippi pot roast and a crock pot would be my last meal on death row. You know how much that comes up on my algorithm?
Mississippi pot roast?
A ton.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh yeah, it looks overrated.
Well,
soggy meat.
Must be a white people thing. That's TV.
Joel's white.
Joel fits the bill. We've got Brian Edwards coming up next. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are joined now by our friend Brian Edwards, our Vegas insider from Major Wager. B, what's going on, man?
Good morning, gentlemen. How we doing?
You're doing pretty well, man. You're up and rolling. The audio came through clear.
I I do have a very important question, though, B.
Why does he always look like he's reading in small font?
No, it's more. It's more.
That was good. That was real good.
Oh man, I'm funny. Just ask me.
We lost.
I was squinting my eyes right as he said that.
It'll be all right.
B, I was wondering if you're more of a crock pot guy or an air fryer guy.
Crock pot.
Yeah, that makes
Shocker.
sense. That makes sense.
Oh my, this might be the funniest 50 seconds of not saying much of anything ever. All right.
I suppose we can.
Oh, I'm crying right now.
I suppose we can jump right into conference championship weekend, if any of us can breathe.
Right on cue. Right on cue.
All right, I'm ready.
All right, lock it in. Let's start with the ACC. You've got SMU and Clemson. What do you like in there?
I like SMU. I just think they're a better team. And Clemson's coming off a 60-minute battle, physical war, and it had to take a drain on them physically and mentally. But the Mustangs are just better. 9-0 last 9, right when they went to Jennings at quarterback. 7-2 against the spread in those games. 7 of the 9 wins by double-digit margins, including the last 4. They've been single-digit favorite twice. 2-0 ATS. I like the Mustangs.
So let me ask you. So this next one is interesting because we watched the first game, and it was pretty clear. Then you look at the line, and it's like, ooh, this may be recency bias because people don't think Georgia is very good. Are you surprised that Texas is favored?
Yeah, I made Georgia -3. So, yeah, I am. I mean, it's in Atlanta. It's basically a home game. Ewers is not 100% healthy. Beck, not only did they beat Texas by 15, that was when Beck was really struggling. He threw 3 interceptions that game. Say that again.
He was bad.
Yeah, only 175 yards, 3 picks, and now all those tens of millions he lost in September and October, he's getting them back because the last 3 games, 11 touchdown passes without an interception. I just don't think you make this one too difficult. And also, Georgia's been an underdog twice since 2021. They beat Clemson in the 21 season opener in Charlotte, and they beat the brakes off Texas earlier this year. Those are their only 2 underdog spots. Even those games against Alabama, they were favored in all those games. So I like Georgia. Now, look, if you can't get +3, but you get +120 or +125 on the money line, just go money line or get it to 3 or both. I like Georgia.
Another one where we're right around that -3-ish range, depending on where you're looking. I've got it at 3.5 right now. Is the Big Ten championship, Oregon and Penn State, the last undefeated team in the land versus a team I don't know that anybody likes that much, despite being number 3 in the country. Like, does anybody like Penn State?
Not me. I think Oregon's got the quarterback advantage. Not that I think Dan Lanning's a great game coach. I mean, I think both these guys are good, program builders, motivators, recruiters, but I don't think I don't think highly of either one of them as a game coach. But I like going against James Franklin in big games. And I'll take Dylan Gabriel over Aller. Yeah, if you can buy it to 3 without paying more than -130 juice, maybe do that. But if you got to pay more than -130 juice, don't worry about it. I like the Ducks.
Let's jump over to the NFL because it almost seems like every week they play, no number's big enough. And they're playing a team where they got a quarterback that occasionally likes to throw it to the other team. I thought the Lions line was a little light, even for the Packers being 9-3 and I mean, they just annihilate people, and yet just a smidge over a key number at home. What do you think?
Oh, I love Green Bay. I'm sorry, I said that completely wrong. I love Detroit against Green Bay. Is it? So I got a clean 3. If it's 3.5, I'd buy it to 3.
So there's a few some 3.5s at like minus
right.
105. 108.
Sure. So I mean, if you watched that game and you weren't, still eating last week, Detroit should have won that game by 3 touchdowns. I think it was 17 first downs to none at one point. But whatever, Chicago rallied, Detroit blew the cover, but I don't think they'll blow the cover for you back-to-back weeks at home. They've won 10 in a row, 9 wins by at least 3. And look, they dominated Green Bay last time. 24-14 was very misleading. It was 24-3 after the first drive of the third quarter. Green Bay got a field goal with like less than a minute left in the third, and then they got a garbage touchdown and 2-point conversion with like 3:40-ish left. Detroit, it was raining. Detroit was just trying to chew clock and get out of there in the second half. That was utter domination. And I mean, I don't know that it'll be a blowout or anything like that, but Detroit -3 is a gift, in my opinion. And if you want to go aggressive, get a little Detroit in the first half. If you want to go team total over 13.5 in the first half or team total over 27.5 for the game, I'm all for it. But Detroit -3 being the biggest bet.
Be staying in the NFL. You've got Cardinals and Seahawks. Cardinals are 2.5-point favorites at home in what has been a pretty chaotic NFC West.
Yes, but I think Arizona's the best team in the NFC West. Now, heartbreaker last week. They should have won that game, and then they had the tough. Well, they did get beat by Seattle a couple weeks ago. But I think Arizona's the best team in the NFC West, and I think they're in revenge mode here. And I think it's a bad line. I made Arizona -4. I will take them -2.5 against Seattle.
B, let me ask you something about. I know sometimes you're kind of a long shot guy because you love value. Who's your pick right now for MVP
in the NFL?
Yeah,
it's got to be Lamar, doesn't it? Well, no, they've lost so much. Gosh, let me get to the odds board.
Do you have any futures on like Rookie of the Year or MVP or anything like that?
Yeah, so I got Jaden Daniels at 8-1, back in like June, or I might have even bet it before that for Rookie of the Year.
You gave us that one, so that I do remember that.
Now, I did hedge a little bit with Bo Nix last week because he'd been playing well. Just because I'm set to make an 8-1, so I took Bo Nix plus 130 in that just as a hedge. But I don't even know if I looked at Jaden's box score last week, but they were up 28, nothing like that. So, and I got Jaden to win MVP, but I forget what odds. I mean, I think he's out of that unless he just really comes on strong. So here I'm trying to get to the MVP odds right now.
Got Josh Allen at -250.
Oh,
and I think Barkley's the next closest money.
Barkley's, Allen's the only one minus money. Barkley's anywhere between +300 and +450, depending on where you're at. And then Lamar's +900, +1,000 in that range.
See, Barkley may not be a bad flyer, B, because they're gonna.
Right.
Philly's really good, and he might. I mean, he's gonna run down 2K.
He's who I want to win it. I mean, if I'm being honest,
he's been incredible.
Yeah. I see +450 at FanDuel. I think you take Saquon right now. I mean, the Bills could lose this weekend. Bills lose a couple games. I mean, Philly's won what? How many have they won in a row? 8 or 9? And
I'm telling you, B,
they're cruising.
They're
cruising.
That's a good football team.
Yeah, and I mean, Devontae Smith hasn't really been healthy the last month.
I get it. Losing Ingram, they've had some injuries, but it doesn't seem to matter.
Is there any?
Yeah, my point being the injuries, like they're gonna get better or they're gonna start playing better. I mean, Devontae's hamstring, right? I mean, Yeah, I mean,
And,
yeah, that's my point. Yeah, no, I think Barkley's worth something at plus 450.
Is there any part of you that looks at the Lions and say, hey, this might just end up being a best player on the best team, and you're like, hey, maybe a flyer with Jared Goff at plus 1,500?
He doesn't get any love, man. People want to give it to Allen.
I don't disagree with that, Ravi. I can hear that because Detroit's won 10 in a row. They're gonna, Barkley and Goff, I think, are worth flyers. I do have a lot of futures on Detroit to win the NFC North when Minnesota was ahead of them by a game or two. I've got Detroit to win the NFC, the Super Bowl. I'm all about Detroit.
He's all about Detroit and the Crockpot. That's our guy, Brian Edwards. Appreciate your time as always, B. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, B.
Fun hang, gentlemen. Y'all have a good weekend. See ya.
We've got some NFL with Arif Hasan coming up next. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DBM Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. We are joined now by Arif Hasan. He covers the NFL for wideleft.com. Arif, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Good morning to you. Appreciate you being with us. We don't, in the land of college football here, dab smack in Nebraska, we don't get near enough NFL talk. So we always appreciate when you're available. And as a tech guy that likes audio, you have apparently what is one of the best setups going with your little soundproofing.
Oh, so you got like a real studio over there.
Yeah, legit, man. And you had us laughing the last time. We're like, yep, we're riding. We're riding again.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, no, I love showing it off.
I got to start now. Again, like I said, full disclosure, I am a Steelers fan. So feel free to hurt my feelings. I feel like this is one of those football teams, especially in their division. They still get the but, like ... Is it time to lose that moniker when we talk about the Steelers?
If you'd asked me that 3 weeks ago, I'd say no. I think that, Russell Wilson has done a lot to demonstrate to me that, he's like a genuinely good quarterback this year, that we're not relying on, all of these tricks to make quarterbacks look good for a couple of weeks at a time. Yeah. And I think that, his relationship with like George Pickens and a couple of these other receivers has really been really meaningful in terms of making that offense move because, Steelers defense, I think that, it's playing a little bit better than I expected this year, but we all kind of expected it to be at least reasonably good. It was really the offense that was a big question mark. And I think that they've done a really good job, kind of regardless of who's at quarterback, making sure that offense can at least function. But with Russell Wilson, especially the last couple of weeks, that offense has done more than just function. It has been really explosive. Obviously, we saw that this last week, but I mean, over the past 4 weeks, I think the only quarterback that's had better numbers anyway than Russell Wilson's Jordan Love. And so this has been a really, I think, astounding turnaround from, a team I didn't have a ton of belief in at the beginning of the season, that a lot of other people didn't have a ton of belief in at the beginning of the season. And, I guess you stop counting on Mike Tomlin, I guess, is the lesson I'm learning.
I'm sitting here and I'm trying to learn some lessons as well. And I'm looking at Kansas City and I go, okay, is this just a team with winning DNA? Are they just the luckiest team in the world? Like, where do you land there, right? Because there's some things that happen. They're like, okay, like there's got to be some luck involved there. But on the other side, you're like, okay, this is just a team that wins a lot and knows how to win. Like, how do you measure?
They are a baffling team, in part because they've been so successful recently that you just kind of want to give it to them. But I think it's a little bit of both. I think this is what happens when you get a team that has higher level performance at the end of games than other teams, combined with a team that has a little bit of luck. Like, I think this is what that looks like when a team otherwise is kind of underperforming. You end up with a team like this. In fact, I covered a team back in 2022 that was a lot like this, the Minnesota Vikings. Both had really good end of game performance pretty consistently and had a lot of luck. Ended up winning a lot of close games, ended up making the playoffs. Obviously didn't do as well as in the playoffs as I would expect the Kansas City Chiefs to do. But I think one other thing is that the Chiefs kind of don't start taking stuff seriously until about now. And so it's a little bit tough to really break them down.
Whatever they get ready, that's what you say to yourself. And they have the only player in the NFL that can negate stats.
Right? No, absolutely.
it's incredible. It doesn't matter how miserable something looks, or you just wait for him to do something that no one else is going to do.
Yeah, the Patrick Mahomes is the only quarterback. I believe I've got a whole database going all the way back to like 1960. He's the only quarterback with at least 20 games where at some point they've been behind in the fourth quarter, where he has a positive winning percentage. His winning percentage is 54.5% in those games. Only quarterback in NFL history like that, and I think that there has to be some element there that, like you said, kind of goes beyond the traditional statistics, that goes beyond, what we think of when we think about evaluating quarterbacks, and, demonstrates his ability to produce winning situations, right? To find the opportunities in the game, to really produce. And I think that there is something there. I think also it's hard to get to there without being a little bit lucky. I think that, I think it's difficult to crack 50%. If you're not a little bit lucky in those situations. But I think just for the most part, it's difficult to get to the point where you're cracking 50% if you're not at least a much better in those winning situations than you are throughout the rest of the game. I think he takes a lot of time to break down what an opposing defense is doing over the course of the game and really exploits them near the end. It's
mind-boggling how they're third in their own division in point differential, and there is a team within 3 games of them.
That's outstanding.
I just want people to understand that they're third in their own division in point differential, and there isn't a team within 3 games in their division.
And for the record, my worst to first sleeper leads that division in point differential. Like, just for the record.
That's right. You did.
I was like, I think the Chiefs might regress in the regular season a little bit, which, to be fair, they have. They've just won all those games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a, like I said, it's an insane one to break down. It's really tough to figure out, especially because the defense hasn't been good since Watson went down. Like, I think that there's like a lot of elements at play here that have really made the Chiefs come out of the gate like a lot weaker than we're used to seeing, even for a Chiefs team that, like we mentioned, takes a little bit of time to get online. But, I just think that when you've got somebody like Andy Reid, when you've got somebody like Patrick Mahomes, navigating the path to victory is a little bit easier. And I think that that's kind of the way to think about this, is that, they know kind of what a win is going to look like in terms of the step-by-step process at the end of the game in order to produce that. Now, against the Raiders, I would say they were more lucky than good. Like, I'm not going to just give them wins that were like a product of just their skill. I think that they were pretty lucky there. But I do think that, putting themselves in a situation where they're never, more than a score apart, where they find ways to produce in the fourth quarter and create additional points, that's going to allow luck to put you in a good place, which is better than I think a lot of teams are in, where like once they get a lucky break, it's too late. They haven't done enough to produce in the game. So yeah, no, certainly I think that, and the Chargers look absolutely phenomenal. Great pick, by the way. I think that, the Chiefs are probably going to lose another game here or there, but once the playoffs start, I think all bets are off.
Yeah, we're fully, even though I can't stand Ravi most days, we're fully kindred spirits, because my worst to first was the Commanders. Unfortunately, they're in a team that's on a heater with a head coach no one wanted. In your opinion, like I'll get to the Eagles in a second, but who are the Commanders for you? Boy,
they're so exciting. They're so exciting. They might be the most exciting team in the NFL right now to watch. I do think that they are a better team than the Eagles. But how it's conversation we were just having about how sometimes better teams don't win more games. It just happens sometimes. I am still really curious about how sustainable Cliff Kingsbury is as an offensive coordinator, just because we saw what happened in Arizona, in the second half drop off. It looked like that was happening here in Washington. And then, they just have this game where it's like, okay, maybe he's kind of figured out how to be a little bit more successful over the course of the season than he used to be. I don't know, but I do know that they've got Terry, they've got Jaden. It's like a great combination. That defense is performing way better than I had expected it to. They're a team that, it's not like I expect them to make a complete run to the Super Bowl. It's very clear that they've got, some lessons to learn along the way. They're a pretty young team in some pretty crucial areas. And so I think that's going to hurt them in the playoffs. But I think that, if you line them up in a regular season game against the Philadelphia Eagles, have 10 games play out, I think they win like 7 of them. I think they're a really good team.
All right. So I'm in this because I think the Eagles are really good. I would say that I wouldn't kind of die on the hill that they aren't the best team in the NFC. We're probably not going to see eye to eye on that considering what Commanders. But could I convince you that if they were the 1 seed, it is much more valued playing where they play than if Detroit was the 1 seed playing where they play? Would you look at those two teams differently based on where they played?
So if we grant the Eagles the 1 seed, they're more likely to say make the Super Bowl than if we granted the Detroit Lions the 1 seed.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, obviously having that home field advantage in the NFC Championship game is huge, and I think that matters a little bit more for the Eagles than for the Lions. Yeah, no, it's huge. It's huge. I do think the Lions are a better team, though, and this is not a knock on the Eagles. I think the Eagles are a really great team. It's just you've asked me about two teams I really respect a lot in comparison. I think that the way the 1 seed is so much more important, I think, in the NFC than the AFC, because I think there aren't any great teams in the NFL right now, but I think there's more good teams, in the NFC. And I think whichever one of those teams grabs that bye, as well as that home field advantage, is going to have a huge advantage over their opponents going forward. And so I think that whoever grabs it is going to be, I'm not going to say a lock or anything like that. They got to play the games, but is going to be in the driver's position. But yeah, the Lions are really good. The Eagles are really good. The Commanders are really good. It's a difficult conference to break down.
We're talking with Arif Hasan, wideleft.com, covering the NFL. Speaking of difficult to break down, do we have any idea if Baltimore's good or not?
I think they're good, but I think that's a fair question. I think
a month ago, I thought they might have been the best team in the NFL.
I did too.
And now I'm like,
the Baltimore's the best team in the AFC. That was a month ago.
And then I'm like, I don't know if they're good at all now.
No, they've definitely been disappointing, especially against division rivals, which is part of the AFC North. I think those games tend to be closer than a lot of divisional games that we're used to seeing over the years. But losing to the Steelers a couple weeks ago, obviously losing to the Eagles just now, that's not like wonderful for the resume. But hey, we were just talking about the Chargers to beat the Chargers, right? And I think the Bengals are better than their record, and they beat the Bengals. So it's a situation where you grab a couple of losses and a team that you put on a pedestal is no longer on that pedestal, but they are a good team. But like I said, there are no great teams in the NFL this year. I don't think, even though we've got a couple of teams with only 1 or 2 losses, I think that a lot of these teams are good. Plus they got a little bit lucky. That's just kind of what happens sometimes. And I think here the Ravens were just not one of those teams that got a little bit lucky. So yeah, I think they're a really great team. That defense is flagging a little bit. They've got a couple of injuries that are going to make them a little bit less of a strong defense than they were at the beginning of the season. And Lamar was playing some truly, truly outstanding football for the first 2 months of the season, and that has dropped off a little bit. And so that's really going to hurt them if that doesn't, move back up, because in the AFC, you're dealing with somebody like a Josh Allen, who's right now like an MVP favorite, who's playing really well. Obviously, again, like we talked about, Patrick Mahomes might just turn it on in the playoffs. So he's got to find that quality that made him an MVP, candidate 3 weeks ago. But, I think they are like a good team. I think it's going to be difficult to play them in the playoffs, but there's a lot of good teams. I don't know.
With that in mind, even if Lamar Jackson does kind of regain his form from earlier in the season, is that enough to make you trust Baltimore in the playoffs? At what point are you just like, oh, this is just who they are after the regular season?
I think that this is a really good opportunity for a team like Baltimore to advance in the playoffs, because again, the Chiefs aren't as good as they usually are. I think that makes them a little bit vulnerable. The Bills obviously are having a really great season, but I think one thing is that I thought Josh Allen, when he was throwing all those picks last year, was better than he is this year when he's not throwing as many picks. Both really outstanding seasons. I don't want to knock either of these seasons for him, but I don't think he's playing as well. And maybe that's because he doesn't have the receiver core he's used to having. Depends. We'll see how much Amari Cooper, features in that offense going forward. But I do think that there are more opportunities here to knock off some AFC stalwarts, right? The Bengals might not even make the playoffs. And so you've got all these quarterbacks that are not playing up to the level that you typically expect to see them play at. And that gives, teams like Baltimore an additional edge when it comes to, throwing off the schneid, making sure that little tiny playoff curse, whatever you want to call it, doesn't really impact them. And I know they've got a really great coach that knows how to win in the playoffs, that knows how to close down games, knows how to coach a team through championships. And so I do think that this is a really good year for Baltimore to, make it to the Super Bowl and show something out of these wonderful regular seasons they've been having.
Can you imagine how good Buffalo could be if they actually understood that how good James Cooks is? How that guy? No, I'm sorry. How does that guy only get 13 carries a game? He's so good and so underappreciated. It's like, all right, well, Ray Davis here. Let's go. We'll throw you some carries. Josh Allen, you running the little like. James Cooks is legit, and he has 13 carries a game. It's incredible.
I think there's two elements at play here. One is that they're so used to Josh just carrying the running game that now that they've got a running back, they kind of don't know what to do with themselves. I think that's a little bit of it. But I think some of it is they don't want to overwork him before you get to the playoffs. I think that they're going to run the ball a little bit more with Cook once they get to the playoffs and lean on him a little bit more, because I think that you're right. His ability to just break these tackles, it goes beyond what his size is, right? A lot of these guys that are breaking tackles have, this really remarkable size speed combination. And James Cook is just a good running back, which is not to say he's not a good athlete, but I think, he has these running back skills that make him really valuable, both in, the running game, breaking these tackles, and in the receiving game. He's a little bit of a better route runner than I'd given him credit for coming out of college. And so I think that we're going to see more the Buffalo lean on James Cook a little bit more in the playoffs. But while you've got somebody like Ray Davis being as productive as he is, while you've got all of this going on, you might as well kind of give him a little bit of a rest, because you don't want the body to break down before you get to those really crucial games.
So I want to get to the, speaking of bodies breaking down, my San Francisco 49ers and the NFC West in general. I'm just assuming the 49ers season is over. Like I've resigned to that fact. I think I was resigned to that fact a while ago, but that is a super interesting division with almost no space between the Rams and the Seahawks. And I look at the Rams, I go, I still think that might be the best team in that division. How do you break down the NFC West?
Yeah, really, really, complicated division to figure out. It may just because I saw Arizona take it that close to the Vikings that I might like Arizona a little bit more. I don't know. But, the Rams obviously have played some really good football. Hopefully they stay healthy, like they've had some difficulty doing throughout the year. But yeah, I don't know. It's because I think that the quarterback play I've liked the most this year out of this division is Geno Smith, but I can't really trust the rest of Seattle. That defense, when it's good, is really good. When it's bad, is really leaky. That offensive line will continue to be a problem. And that is a little bit of an issue for both the Rams and the Cardinals too, that offensive line issue. And so I don't know what else can separate a lot of these guys. I think that, again, we were talking about luck. I think that the luckiest team ends up winning this division, because I think a lot of them are really, really close. Man, I think I like the Cardinals the most, just because I like the growth we've seen out of Jonathan Gannon as a head coach. I like how that defense has really adapted to the personnel that they have, which is a huge problem they've had over the past couple of years, really taking advantage of all the personnel that they've had. And their coverage unit in particular has gotten a lot better, because it was a disaster at the beginning of the year. They've really figured out who they have, how to best use those players. Not that it's a great coverage unit right now, not that it's a great pass rush right now, especially with all the injuries they have at edge rusher, but they are manufacturing ways to produce production on the defense, which is kind of all you need, I think, when you get that offense going. I'd like to see them use Marvin Harrison a little bit more, but Kyler Murray's playing at a really high level. Trey McBride is playing at an elite level. I don't know if he's an elite player, but he's playing at an elite level right now. And I think that kind of mismatch is going to give them an advantage when it comes to this divisional race.
All right, let me get you out of here on this one. In the AFC South, who's the best team in your opinion, and how much of it has to do with Kirk Cousins having a 1.3 to 1 touchdowns to interception ratio.
Man, oh geez, I think it might be the Buccaneers, but it's tough. Cousins, I think, is gonna. That's probably his worst game of the season. I don't think he's gonna have another game like that. So I don't want to just evaluate him based off of that Chargers game, but I do think that we've only seen 4 or 5 good games from him. Mind you, they've been outstandingly good games. But I think the fact that, we haven't seen a ton of good games throughout the season from him is an indication that they can't really sustain this. That defense is playing just all right. It's not going to do enough to kind of cover for those mistakes. Not that anything could cover for kind of what happened in that Chargers game, but I think going forward, when you have offensive mistakes, they just don't have the ability to recover from them. The Buccaneers kind of do. I also just think Baker Mayfield, this is not a sentence I thought I would say, but 2024, Baker Mayfield's more consistent than Kirk Cousins. And I think that that's going to drive them to a little bit more in terms of victories. So I like Baker Mayfield's ceiling in this offense with what they're doing, even when they've lost Dave Canales and even when they've lost a couple of receivers to injury. I think that he is finding ways to take advantage of, how well Bucky Irving is playing, getting Mike Evans back, figuring out kind of all of those pieces, Kate Otten, figuring out all those pieces together. I think he's doing more to figure that out than Cousins is doing with a much, much better offensive supporting cast. And I think that level of consistency is kind of what's going to drive them to win that division.
That's Arif Hasan, wideleft.com. Arif, we appreciate the time as always. Great good stuff. We'll talk again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
That's Arif Hasan. Make sure you check out his work at wideleft.com.
Who do you think's better, the Eagles or the Lions?
I think the Lions are better, but I think it's really close. I wouldn't die on that hill.
Yeah. Well,
nor would
since you told me that Hurts isn't a Super Bowl caliber quarterback.
Yeah, I'm going to pivot with the best MVP running back season we've seen of all time. So,
although Hurts is balling.
He is. He's playing really well.
You're such a hater.
I mean, listen.
Oh, I'm going to pivot.
Yep. That's like I had to do with Jason Tatum. He was the 4th best player in the Celtics championship. That's not a guy. Not a Lulla star.
Incredible.
Just got to be ready to wiggle. No, I want it to be known that I was exactly right about the Chargers. I just did not anticipate.
That's how I feel about the Commanders.
The greatest luck season of all time we've ever seen.
It's
wild.
Believe me. Again, 3rd in point differential in your division, and there's not a team within 3 games.
Yeah, it's not even close. It's not even close. But this is exactly what I thought the Chargers would be. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
I don't.
Yeah, I will say you crushed the Commanders. That was a good one. I wasn't sure they were going to
nailed the Bengals.
I wasn't sure they were going to.
And I wanted to take the Chargers, but I said I couldn't ride with you on the Chargers because of the Chiefs.
Yeah. I did not anticipate.
We talked about how good Harbaugh is in year 1.
Yeah.
How they're built for it. It's like
best quarterback he's ever had.
I mean, he's got slightly above average receivers playing out of their gourd.
That was the thing that you really struggled with.
I know. I just didn't know if they would catch the ball in those.
Yeah. And I was like, we're just riding with Lad McConkey.
No, listen, and look at how Justin's playing.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, they're playing a way that is very conducive to what Jim Harbaugh likes to do.
Yeah, I wish. I mean, this is dumb because I'm a Steelers guy and it's the Keystone State. I don't mind the Eagles.
No, I like how they play. Like, they're fun to watch.
What's really dumb?
What's that?
I'm not a Barkley guy.
Really?
No.
They jump too much? That's part of it, I think.
Kind of.
You don't like guys that jump.
A little too unconventional for me, but
yeah.
He's incredible.
I mean, didn't you like Le'Veon Bell? It's about as unconventional as it gets.
No, I hated Le'Veon Bell. Yeah.
DB, big Le'Veon Bell guy.
No. I still Lee Barfnick lunch over Le'Veon Bell.
Well, you better pay up.
I know.
I'm glad that the lunch bets don't go both ways, where you don't collect and you don't pay up.
Gosh.
We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio. Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. It's time for Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets. Make sure you get to the casinos in Lincoln or Omaha to get your sports bets placed. War Sportsbook, no bets, no glory.
No glory.
Hey, you've been getting a lot of glory lately with all your winners.
Hey, listen.
What's up?
So apparently, like, I think you can bet on this is not a hot take.
Okay.
Because I got some people vibing with me, but I also got the people that are like,
what are we betting on?
That my poll question was, if you're a big ribeye guy, is it okay to be pretty indifferent about prime rib?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I voted. I said yes.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah, because they're different.
Okay.
They're different. And maybe more importantly, they're prepared differently. Right?
Yeah, the whole oven thing has me.
That's probably what it is for you. Because it's a different it's a different taste.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if the cuts of meat are more similar than they are different.
I do like the fact, Aaron, he gave me the mashed potatoes French fry reference. So I'm vibing.
They're very different.
And he's super practical. You know how he's like super practical.
I mean, listen, we could get even deeper in the weeds there. We could talk about just different styles of French fries, right? Like, I'm not messing with a steak fry, but give me like a little shoestring, crispy shoestring fry.
So that was one of Jessica's questions she had for the players, like their favorite,
like, style of French fry,
style of potato.
Ooh, okay. Oh, I could do this all day.
I was surprised how many of the players said mashed potatoes.
Yeah,
because so there's 2.5 answers for me, and I don't eat any of the 3.
Okay.
But I love them.
Anymore.
Yes, but I love them. It's either a mashed potato, a hash brown, or a tater tot. Anything else, I'm probably not even wasting time ordering.
Really?
Yeah.
So I
was surprised at the mashed potato response. And my man, Christian Jones.
What did he have?
Mashed potatoes.
So there's
Did you see his gear yesterday?
I didn't actually.
He's wild.
Oh no, I did with the shoes.
Yeah, and the
little
spray painted coat.
I did see that.
Yeah.
The people that love mashed potatoes love mashed potatoes.
Yeah, my mom's the goat.
I'm pretty indifferent towards mashed potatoes, if I'm being honest.
Like, really?
Yeah, they're fine. Like, I'll eat them. I like them. Yeah. But if I'm getting a potato, that's not my choice. I honestly,
there's lots of things like that that I'll eat, but I'm in totally. That's how I feel about
the mashed potatoes are my prime rib of the potato family.
That's how I feel about like pork chops.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'll eat them.
Yeah, but you're not going to go out of your way.
Not typically.
There's a couple places I've had though that have really good pork chops, and I will order them there.
So, and I think part of it, like my new thing now, it's not new. Like, he told me about this like 3 years ago. But I told you my buddy Kevin is a big pork steak guy.
Yeah.
So now I'm pork steaks over.
I've never had a pork steak.
Oh.
Although I will say a bad pork chop is really bad. Like, if you overcook it, it's really bad.
Yeah, for what it is, you just have to be too particular before you dry it out.
That's fine.
So
I can see that.
It's fine though.
Yeah.
Like, there's a couple of restaurants here locally, like they've
got good pork chops.
Yeah, they're good.
I will say
pork chop is probably my go-to if somebody's taking me out to dinner and I don't want to take advantage.
You don't like break the bank.
So I never.
You don't go steak or
it's
anything.
that or fish. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice of you.
No, it just seems like the right thing. I'm not overly nice.
You know what I'll do sometimes though? If I'm treating somebody to dinner, I will go out of my way to order something more expensive so they know it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. How's the caregiver more cognizant?
What do you mean?
Than the non-caregiver who pretends to care? Like, you're much more indifferent about people than I am.
Oh, not the people I like.
Oh, okay.
I'm more indifferent about more people, like the masses.
Yeah.
But the people I like, I'm like ride or die with.
Right.
So
I knew you'd have some sort of warped rationale for being a jerk.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of my whole worldview is why does it make sense that I'm being a jerk here? But no, I'll if I take people out to dinner, I will, even if it's not really something I want, I will go out of my way to order something more expensive so they know they can order whatever they want.
Yeah.
Because I like to buy people dinner sometimes. I've been trying to buy you dinner for about a year.
Oh my goodness.
So now that I'm pretty close to being out of like,
you could have gotten more out of me last night.
Football money, I'll be taking you up on that offer because I'll be broke again June through July or January through July.
You could have doubled yourself again last night on the Creighton game.
Did you read that and think I was on drugs?
No, because if it was anybody else, if it was any other team that was playing, I would have looked at that line and been like, okay, this team's 5-3. They're struggling to come out of Vegas. We don't know if their center is going to play. I know Ashworth is banged up. I would have looked at it and be like, that line is super stinky. It makes sense that you're going that way. But just being too close to Creighton, I never
thought it.
I would have taken, if you go, hey, double or nothing on our lunch bet, if you told me you would take the Jays straight up to win, I would have taken you up on that. I would have taken Kansas on that. I was shocked last night.
Oh, good.
Which it was pleasant surprise, right? But I was stunned.
I looked because I didn't send that to you until like 9:40.
Yep.
But I had to wait because
you're on air, doing some stuff.
And as you know, like I put my phone right here.
Mm-hmm.
So I got Dana here, and Jess is cool. She doesn't care, but
then I'm just blowing you up the whole show.
Dana's gonna be like,
"Who you texting?"
I talk Jays plus 4 and Iowa has 5. I'm like, yeah, don't think bad of me. I'm just helping my buddies out. No big deal.
It's just for the show. Don't worry about it. But
well, unfortunately for me, it has been for entertainment. I just don't.
Yeah, you could have doubled me up last night though, for sure. I would have taken Kansas to win straight up, without a doubt.
My buddy Kevin just reminded me I need to. He's like, yeah, you could be taking advantage of your own stuff. I'm like,
you could. You're on a heater.
Selfish.
It's not a good point.
You got
my man JB and Casey. He's killing it.
Is he?
Yeah, he's funny too. His crock. Did I tell you his crock?
His
crock pot reference.
Yep. Yeah, you did.
He's a foodie too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But his wife is biracial and
he's not.
He's not, and he's out on crock pots. Or she's out on crock pots.
Yeah.
He's a crock pot guy.
Was. Keyword was.
B. Edwards is hilarious though. Because he knew.
Did he?
I had a. He's very.
He does listen sometimes because he'll reference stuff.
He knows.
Yeah.
He's a cool dude.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You have any locks tonight?
Yeah.
You have any ones you feel good about?
I got a handful.
Are you playing the NFL at all or no?
So I love Green Bay.
You like Green Bay plus 3.5?
Yeah, Green Bay will win maybe.
You think they might win outright?
Yeah. So the points obviously there are a gift.
Right.
But
unless you want to go money line.
Yeah, because there's got to be.
I mean, you're going to be plus money. I'm looking for it right now.
There's got to be fairly substantial.
Plus 160 if you want to take Green Bay on the money line. So you get a little juice on there.
Yeah, I'll
take it.
I love Green Bay.
You, Jordan, love Green Bay?
Yeah, just stop throwing it to the other team.
That is a key factor in being a good quarterback.
Just stop doing that, and
maybe he needs to pray to Jameis's God and say, "Hey, deliver me from these pick sixes."
Yeah, but I'll give you the other one.
What's the other one?
TCU will beat Xavier.
Oh, okay.
TCU will beat Xavier.
What's the what's the number on that one?
1.5 or 1.
Okay. TCU over Xavier.
Take the Horned Frogs. If you like the Packers, take the Packers. I like the Packers.
Yeah. You like Turtles?
For those that, and I don't believe that you should be doing this in the parlay world, but if you want a third, take your Penn State Nittany Lions. Catching 2 from Purdue.
Ooh. Out on Purdue?
Out on Purdue. All the way out on Purdue.
Penn State rolling, 1.5 point favorite. So you like Penn State, the 1.5 favorite.
Are they favored now?
Yeah.
I looked at it this morning. They were catching.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Penn State is a 1.5 point favorite.
Okay.
Yeah. They're 1.5.
What's the money line?
Money line on that one is plus, or Penn State's minus 125. So you're paying a little premium on that one.
You're winning.
What's up, little lady? She's got to be like 18 by now.
I don't know if I could be amazing today.
So you're not feeling the minus money on Penn State then?
I like the money line.
You like the money line?
Yeah.
Minus 125. Yeah. You like plus 1.5 for TCU.
Mm-hmm.
And you like Green Bay plus 3.5.
Correct.
Those are our winners.
Yeah.
Lock them in.
Lock them in.
DB's on a heater.
Lock them in. Did I answer anything that you wanted to ask me? Because I don't feel like I did.
In that segment or just like in general?
In general, about
Nah.
Warhorse is cool.
It's fine. Well, we got some picks in. It's all good.
Usually you give me like a rundown of games I haven't really.
We'll do that tomorrow.
All right. I'm going to do my homework.
Well, I mean,
I should probably do show prep at least once.
It's going to be conference championship games, so it's not. You'll have a good feel.
So
on
you see
those.
some of the lines of balloons?
Yeah, they're moving around a little bit.
Yeah.
We were
There's more than a handful over 4 now.
Yeah, I know, and there was just the one right at 4 to start. That's Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Go to warhorsecasino.com. Wrapping up the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFR, and Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. I did think his comments yesterday about Butler and the DC position were interesting because, and maybe I'm reading way too much into this, which is there's a pretty decent chance that I am. But
that sounds like a hedge.
No, it's a thing that I do a lot is I kind of overanalyze things. No hedging here. I just pivot.
That may be a T-shirt. No hedge here. I just pivot.
But I got the sense from the way he was talking about the D coordinator spot that it wasn't going to be John Butler. That's the vibe that I got. Was
well, I'm bound to get one of these, right? Because I sure thought Knighton would stay.
It seemed like it pretty late in the process.
Man.
It really did.
Stuff just started trickling in. And you got to keep in mind.
Yeah.
This is happening
like
about 40 yards from me.
Yeah.
And I can't see anything.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, okay, focus. Because I love watching film. And I think Jess is hilarious. And I knew we were going to get the coaches. And
yeah,
the guys are funny too. Like the crew. Because it's like a whole setup.
Yeah.
And so it kept me preoccupied. And I only got up twice in 4 hours. I only walked around twice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
not a lot for you.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, just writing the emotions. Okay, we're in. Okay, we're not good. Shoot. Hold the phone.
Yeah.
Fudge. All right. Wait. Back in. Damn it. Like, that's kind of how I felt.
So that's the sense I got externally was that Nebraska, just the longer it went on, it's like, okay, obviously Nebraska's doing everything they can to retain this guy, just from a timing perspective, right?
Yeah.
His name came out initially at the same time the reporter Tony White did, and then radio silence for a few days before yesterday when it gets confirmed that he's leaving. So just logically putting things together, I'm going, okay, obviously Nebraska's making a push to try and keep Terrance Knighton here. There's probably some back and forth going on. And so I go, okay, I imagine Nebraska would have matched money. That's an assumption I'm making. I don't know. So I go, okay, so what?
I can't help you there.
No, yeah, and that's fine. I'm just, this is me kind of trying to fill in blanks just from a logical perspective. Because I'd love to be a fly on the wall of just how that went down, right? Because I think it's super interesting.
Although there is this part of me.
Yeah.
And I wonder, and I don't have the stones to just probably sit down and ask him, except for maybe a day when we're both older men, sitting on the porch swinging with our lemonade. But I wondered, like, he's so good at building relationships. Did he, in this situation, did he treat Coach Knighton more like a son than an employee?
Yeah. Because, I mean, you mentioned this. He's known him since he was 17 years old.
Yeah.
Like, he played for him, coached under him. You know, I did think it was interesting. Coach Rhule brought that up. He goes, some of these guys have been around me for a really long time, and they kind of want to go do, at some point, like, try it on their own.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a thing that I think does matter, right? Because, I mean, you've brought this up. Sometimes you're like, okay, am I only getting these opportunities because of who I know or because, like, people I know care about me?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a coach and you're ambitious and you're like, okay, I've got this other opportunity to do this thing with Tony White, who didn't have an attachment to me before he got here and has decided independently that he likes me and thinks I'm good at what I do. Like, that can be appealing of getting that that validation from somebody that doesn't necessarily have an emotional attachment to you in the same way. Right. So I do wonder about that. I wonder about
sometimes that's good for emotional balance too.
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's good to have.
That's interesting.
It's good to have that in your life of, hey, this person doesn't have to like me and they do anyway.
Yeah.
right? And I think
that's funny. That's how I feel about that's how I feel about like AC.
Yeah.
Adam.
Yeah, and I think that's valuable to have in your life.
Very much so.
It's valuable to have people in your life that, you know, and it's still a little different with Terrance Knighton because like both Coach Rhule and Coach White want something from him, right? They want him to be their D-line coach and continue to be good at his job. So it's a little different there because there, to a certain degree, has to be an agenda because you're talking about high-performing individuals. But I do think Coach Rhule looks at it as, I mean, he said it yesterday, he's had 5 D-line coaches in his time as a head coach. And so I do think Coach Rhule probably looks at it like, well, I want Terrance Knighton. I don't need Terrance Knighton, right?
So there's that funny thing I go back to, and I can't think of it right off the top of my head. Remember, I always talk about this.
It's how Rhule can love you and you walk away thinking
from him at the same time.
Yeah.
And somebody worded it a lot better than I could. And I was like, man, I think that's what it is. It was probably somebody like, I don't know, it was probably DJ or something. But I was talking to Lance about this yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I kind of liken it to the coaching departures and the transfer portal to like divorce, right? Because one or the other said, hey, you know, you're clearly not who I want or what I need. I'm going to choose to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
And there's kind of this
isn't what's best for me anymore.
Yeah. And so there's this realization that like you're not good enough or they want something different.
They want something else, and which is not the same thing.
It can or can't be.
Right. But it doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, I don't, because people will, like, their needle's going to move all over the place about the transfer portals, and they're not done with player departures, and there's going to be some more names. You're going to be like WTH, and people will be like, the sky is falling. But at some point, when you've been through enough of the struggles, which I believe Coach Rhule is built for, he is uniquely built for. And it was verified yesterday by somebody that's known him in a different capacity. When he said his ability, when Coach Holgorsen was talking about his ability to function at a high level with chaos all around him and kind of seemingly just do his thing. Like, see, I can admire that because that's somebody that tries to do a lot of the same thing and has had some notorious meltdowns. At least 3 or 4 catastrophic ones that I can think of myself. So I don't know how it manifests itself in Coach Rhule's life when you try to, like, carry the burden to do for the greater good, even though you're like miserable.
Yeah, you're
you know what I mean?
yourself.
Like it manifests itself in a lot of different ways. But having said that, when you're still overseeing all these people and they still want to be around you, like there's something to be said for that. There just is. Like, I want some of what that guy has.
Yeah.
Or I feel like the more I'm around him, the better I'm going to be.
Yeah.
And that's genuinely how people feel. That's why, I was like, people need to slow down with the whole Tony White speculation. I was like, there's only a couple of things that could get me to make a move that doesn't seem right.
Like it makes a ton of sense.
On the surface.
Yeah. One of them was family.
Outside of it having to be about family.
Yeah.
Like it's the only thing I could think of immediately was because those are the parts we can't see.
Yeah. Which is why I went through the process of it not making sense from a football standpoint.
And I think we need to think about that with players in the portal too. And you also need to think about it with players or coaches that he brings that he brings in the program. He told you what his vision was in terms to offset movement and freedom of movement.
Yeah.
Because remember, he's also the same guy that when people were up in arms about Trev, he said, "Man, you guys get too emotionally attached."
Yeah.
He said he said this is a very fluid thing. You have to learn to think fluidly.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm over it.
People are gonna come and go.
I mean, Mike Minter looked at me. He was like, and he's further along too because he's had to deal with a lot of tough things in his life.
Yeah.
He's like, "You try to tell you, DB, you're too sensitive." I was just like, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? So that I admire that in people that can function like that, but still care. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's really the hard line, right? Because a lot of people that function like that come off as pretty callous and cold.
Yep.
Not that
and that's clearly not him.
Know anybody or sitting next to one right now or anything like that, but it's really hard to walk the line. See, I've got a little bit of self-awareness, not a lot, but just a spoonful.
You're just in a zone because Creighton won.
Just enough.
It's physical. It's hard. It's cold.
Just enough to fit in a crock pot, but
probably right up your alley.
It's no, I'm not. Never mind.
Close enough.
At least we season our food. No, it is really hard to walk the line of being able to walk away, of being able to operate in that chaos and not dissociate yourself from the feeling and the emotions of it. And that's the thing. If Rhule can do that successfully, that's a much more valuable thing than I think we realize.
It's going to be a couple key additions. It's going to be interesting.
We will we'll keep you posted, and we will wrap up the week tomorrow. Make sure you're getting out to lawrenceandgardens.org for their Bright Nights. You can get tickets there. It's one of Omaha's brightest holiday traditions. Bright Nights, Lawrence and Gardens, amazing light displays, a towering poinsettia tree, and model trains, which is what DB liked the most. It's at lawrenceandgardens.org. We'll be back tomorrow.